Let's talk about the craziness about the latest infrastructure package, the debt ceiling, where we stand, and most importantly, what's going to happen going forward. Alright guys, so quickly, the Senate passed the short-term extension of the debt recently by a vote of 50 to 48, pretty much a party line vote. Now this was done without budget reconciliation because Mitch McConnell and 10 other Republicans total allowed the filibuster to end, paving the way for Democrats to pass the debt limit bill through this resolution that Republicans came up with, along with Democrats, just as long as the debt limit would be extended through December. Alright guys, so now this bill is getting sent over to the House of Representatives, where obviously we expect it to get slammed on. Now there was some last minute drama as the bill got passed in the Senate. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer went to the floor and pretty much slammed Republicans for provoking this whole crisis. Apparently Chuck Schumer wanted everybody to know how Democrats had this massive victory and they prevailed over Republicans. Now that's good and all, but when we think about it, it was really Mitch McConnell who's kind of like, alright, let's kick the can down the road type of deal. So Mitch McConnell actually did have a lot of power, but he allowed the Democrats to move forward. Now some people argue that Mitch McConnell didn't want Democrats to vote to end the filibuster. Maybe that's why he allowed Democrats to move forward with this debt ceiling. Although I don't think that was it. Joe Biden has clearly said he does not want the filibuster to end, and he did not want Democrats to get rid of the filibuster. Reason being because that would mean when Republicans have power next time around, Republicans would not have a filibuster to deal with. So it's really thinking about long term. You can be in power right now, but you don't want to get screwed down the line if you're not in power when you're in the minority. So in other words, Joe Biden and most of the leading Democrats don't want to do this, or as popular as it is to say, get rid of the filibuster. So Chuck Schumer really wanted to make his point very clear. I mean, he went on a long rant about how this was a huge Democratic victory. Now, Joe Manchin actually said after the speech to reporters that he felt the speech was stupid. So this is just a portion of what Senate Leader Chuck Schumer stated. And I quote, Leader McConnell and Senate Republicans insisted they wanted a solution to the debt ceiling, but said Democrats must raise it alone by going through a drawn-out, convoluted reconciliation process that was simply unacceptable to my caucus. And yesterday, Senate Republicans finally realized that their obstruction was not going to work. I thank very much my Democratic colleagues. Now we're going to unify in solving this Republican-manufactured crisis. Despite immense opposition from Leader McConnell and members of his conference, our caucus held together and we pulled our country back from this cliff's edge that Republicans tried to push us over. I mean, wow, Joe et al., those are some very strong words. But anyway, look, this debt ceiling thing, it's essentially done. It still's got to pass the House, but it's essentially done. And this basically keeps the debt ceiling extended through December of this year, keeps our country running, our bills are getting paid, and it also means that Schumer's going to have to work with Republicans again come December to raise the debt ceiling. But if you think about it, we have some timetables that are right now very important. Alright, so now I want to go over some very important timetables. October 31st is when Nancy Pelosi has set a date to vote on the passing of the $1 trillion infrastructure plan. So that 1 to 1.2 hard infrastructure plan. Bottom line, guys, it doesn't appear we're going to get that $3.5 trillion plan. It's probably going to be closer to 1.5 to 2, leaving a lot of people wondering where the cut's going to come from. The House Progressive Chairwoman has made it very clear that she's open to negotiating a smaller number. I think that she's even realized this is going to become a take it or leave it kind of deal. With that being said, guys, now the question is, where are we going to cut this $3 to $3.5 trillion outline down to 1 to 2 trillion? We got to cut some things out. So with that being said, it's suggesting that they'll have to shorten the time frame for certain benefits. For example, instead of doing a 4 to 5 year child tax care credit, maybe they'll end up doing a 2-year child tax credit. I mean, we'll see. Now, December 3rd is the date when our government budget runs out. Again, this is another date we have to keep an eye on, and I know this is obviously separate from the debt ceiling, so we bought ourselves some time kicking that down the road to December, and it gives us time for these negotiations with the infrastructure package and the debt ceiling, which is very good. Representative Ro Khanna also had a private conversation with Joe Biden about the Build Back Better plan and the bipartisan infrastructure deal, as well as the debt limit. Ro Khanna suggested that getting Bernie Sanders and Joe Manchin in a room together to figure out a compromise would be great. Keep in mind, guys, Ro Khanna is a progressive himself. In fact, last year he authored the Emergency Money for the People's Act, which would have given $2,000 of stimulus per month. Not $600, not $1,400, but $2,000 per month. So if you think about it, he's obviously progressive, but he's making the suggestion that, well, hey, if they get fellow progressive Sanders and moderate Manchin in a room together, maybe a compromise between them could appease every Democrat, or as many as possible in the House and Senate. So in response to that suggestion, Joe Biden said that getting these two together in a room would be like homicide. I can kind of see that as being possible because I think Bernie Sanders is extremely upset at somebody like Joe Manchin for holding up the progressive or left agenda, to which we've seen many tweets from Bernie Sanders suggesting that it's unfair that two people should be able to hold up the will of 48. Alright guys, but remember, it's always worth noting there are also Republicans Republicans who would join Joe Manchin, so it's really more like 58 versus 52. Sanders responded to the idea and said, "It's not a movie. I don't know if you are a movie writer. This is not a movie." So it looks like everybody's kind of seeing drama on both sides here. So Bernie Sanders has been consistently reiterating his policy agenda, and of course, as usual, made his case for leaving certain elements in, such as the Medicare coverage of hearing, dental, and vision programs. Bernie Sanders also said there's a direct link between Congress members who don't want to support lowering prescription costs and those who accept money from pharmaceutical companies. This is a slam, and people like your son have received money from lobbies from the pharmaceutical industry. I mean, Bernie Sanders is pointing out that maybe there's a connection here in terms of why there are issues. And then, of course, we always know that there's lobbyism at play. But I think it's just worth noting at this point, we have the debt ceiling limit and budget both kicked down the road through December. So beyond us getting these kicked down the road through December, we also have the infrastructure plans now kicked down the road to the middle of October. That's what we're looking at right now as the middle of October. Democratic leaders have said that now more than ever, thanks to the missing of our jobs numbers, that now more than ever it's essential for us to spend the multi-trillion-dollar infrastructure, spend multiple trillions of dollars on infrastructure, especially the soft infrastructure package, the social infrastructure package. Democrats are stating that you have economists saying that the unemployment rate going down to 4.8% is a significant improvement from when Joe Biden took office. And Joe Biden has touted decreases in Hispanic and Black unemployment rates, but we still obviously have a lot of work to do. But either way, over the next few weeks, especially leading up to Halloween, so we got about a couple weeks to see what's going to happen, guys. So I mean, at this point, it's anyone's guess where that number is going to land, and I suspect there's going to be inflation concerns regarding this package. So once we get the updated consumer price index inflation report, that may factor into the negotiation. For example, if they come in lower than expected, that will help appease Joe Manchin and may indicate that the inflation we are experiencing is temporary. On the flip side, if inflation numbers come back in higher than expected, that could definitely make it a lot harder. Somebody may want to manage and be okay with a larger package, and instead he might prefer to settle for a smaller package. Anyway, guys, that gives you a little bit of an update in terms of timing of what we have. We've got a little bit of a peace here for a few weeks, although I do suspect that the negotiations and bickering will continue, especially between Joe Manchin and Bernie Sanders. But I'll keep an eye on the developments as they come in, but we're closer and at least we got the debt ceiling resolved. But in the meantime, that is my stimulus infrastructure update, and that's all for today's video. Thanks for watching. By the way, if you enjoyed the content, make sure you give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Thanks again for watching, and until next time.